Okay, we are working on factoring quadratic trinomials, so ones with 3 terms. So you're looking for the page that's labeled 7576, factoring ax squared plus bx plus c. So that's where, when we come down here, this is where the a, b, and c comes from. So we have these steps that you're going to be doing, and it's going to look really familiar to what we were doing last week, except it's backwards from the beginning of the chapter. So here are your steps. First thing you need to do is list your A, B, and C. So if we look here, really we have a 1 in front there. And then that means A is 1, the B is 10, and the C is 24. So you list those every time. Okay, and then we do our factors. We have factors of A times C. So we're going to make a list right here. And that list can be pretty long. But factors of A times C. So what are my A times C? Well, my A is 1. My C is 24. So right now we're working with just when A equals 1. Eventually A won't be 1, and it makes it a little bit harder. But right now, still going to follow this process. So A times C, that adds to B. So we listed all of our A times C factors, 1 times 24, 2 times 12. And then once it starts to repeat, so once I come back around here and I'm doing the same factors, but now I'm going the other way, I know I'm done. Okay, so I write down all my factors, and then I add them together. So 1 plus 24 is 25, 2 plus 12 is 14, 3 plus 8 is 11, and then 4 plus 6 is 10. So right there, 4 plus 6 is 10, it equals that B. And that's what we're looking for. Okay, so what they did here, they wrote it down, and then what you do is you group the first 2 together. That's why they got that bracket there, and the second 2 together. And then you're going to factor those 2 separately. And you just factor your GCF out. And then remember, from our distributive property, if this is in front here and this is in front here, as long as these match, and that's part of what has to happen, as long as those match, then you can regroup them as a common group, and you're done. So let's do one. So in this case, it's a little bit trickier because let me go through this. So my A is 1, and my B is -5, and my C is 6. So the only way I can add to get a negative here is, so we have A times C equals 6. The only way you can do that is if you have negative numbers, because if I go through and I did 1 times 6, 2 times 3, that's going to add to get 7 and a positive 5. But if I were to find some other factors that work, also can come up with ones that are negative. So our answer ends up being -2 times -3. And those add up to get your -5 that you need. So we've done this. We identified our A, B, and C. We listed our factors. Okay, we found the one that worked. Okay, find the sum of each pair of the factors. We did that. That's written over here. Okay, we found the one that adds to the B. And then it says rewrite the bx using the factors in step 4. So what you end up doing is we're going to take this d squared minus 5d plus 6, and we're going to just write it as the following. D squared. And it doesn't matter which one you put first, but we're going to put minus 3d, minus 2d, and then plus 6. So what do these have in common? Well, as long as d is equal to 1, you're always going to be able to pull out a d. So we're left to pull out a d from these first two. And what does that leave me? Well, that leaves me d minus 3. So now down here, I'm going to factor out what goes here. What do they have in common? I'm going to factor out a negative 2 because I have that negative right here. If I factor out a positive 2, then I wouldn't get that negative 3 that I'm looking for. Okay? So I can't do this. Here, it wouldn't work. Okay? So since we have that negative drops down. We factor out what do they have in common? They have a 2 in common. So what does that leave me? Well, that leaves me with d minus 3 because remember these have to match. And then also negative 2 times negative 3 is a positive 6. So now we've done that. We've rewritten them. That's right here. We rewrote them. We did our two groups. And now we factor out the common group. So these can go together, and then my other parts go together. So I have an answer of d minus 2 and d minus 3. So we can go a little quicker now. So I always made my list like this. So I do a times c, and then my b. Now in this case, I have my a is 1. My c is negative 26. So my a times c is negative 26. It was 1 times negative 26. And then we need to add to get negative 11. So here, what I'm going to do, let me erase this, make a little more room. So my a times c equals a negative 26, and my b equals negative 11. So now I need to go through and start finding things that add. And what we'll see here, since this is negative, you have to have one positive and one negative. So I could do something like 26 times negative 1. And I would add those together to get 25. But I don't expect you to necessarily list out every single factor. But we go down to our next factor. If I did 13 and negative 2, they multiply, get negative 26. And they add to get a positive 11. So actually what I just need to do then is flip this and do negative 13 and a positive 2. And that's going to add to the negative 11 that I'm looking for. Okay? So whenever you have a negative right here and a negative right here, that's the pattern you're going to have. You're going to have that the number has to be bigger, unlike this one down here in example 4. But if it's negative, negative, then the bigger number has to be negative in your a times c. Just a little hint. So again, we rewrite this. So now we're going to take the k squared, and we're going to do, doesn't matter which order you do it. So we can do minus 13k plus 2k minus 26. So again, we group these together, group those together, and then factor out anything we can. So we can factor out a k from the first group, and that leaves me with k minus 13. And then down here, since I have a positive, what can I factor out here? Well, the only thing I can factor out here is a number. 2 goes into 26. So I can factor out a positive 2 because that plus just drops down. And again, that leaves me with k minus 13. These match, so there's my common group to make an answer. And then these we merge together. And this should look really familiar from before. Because if I wrote it like this, because remember multiplication you can do in any order. If we were going to go the opposite way and multiply this, here's what we do. We split this first one up. Look, that matches there. And if I work through this entire problem and multiply it out, and that's how you check your work, all these steps would match what we have up here. They're just backwards. But I need room to finish this last example. Change this problem, so sorry about the edits if it jumps around a little bit. We need to make this x squared plus 16x minus 36. So in this case up here, you notice that the b was negative and the c was negative. In order to do that, then you had to have a bigger negative number. Well, in this case, if the 16 is positive, you have to have the bigger number be positive. So my a times c is negative 36, and my b is a positive 16. So if I do this, 36 times negative 1 is negative 36, and it adds to 35. 18, negative 2. Multiplies the negative 36, adds to get 16. So I can rewrite it. So I have x squared plus, and it doesn't matter the order. I personally would put the negative one first. And the reason is because we're going to have minus 2x plus 16x. I like having a positive there. Sorry, not 16x, 18x. They add to get 16x, and then I add minus 36. So I like to have a positive here. It just makes it less likely I'll make a mistake. So again, we group them and group these. I can factor in x out of the first one. That'll be consistent on your lesson today. And what's left is x minus 2. And I can factor out from over here, I can factor out an 18. Remember, it's positive because that drops down. And what's that leave me with? Also x minus 2. And you can always check these. X times x is x squared. X times negative 2x, negative 2x. 18 times x is 18x. 18 times negative 2, negative 36. So now we're going to come down. We're going to skip a page, 2 pages. And I want you to try 1 through 6 on your own. Okay, and make sure you're showing your work like we did up here on these examples. So turn in all 3 pages to receive your credit, and have a good day.